Chapter 1. The sacred religion of Merit. Singapore loves one word more than growth, more than stability, more than hawker. That word is meritocracy, not as a policy, not as a system, as a religion. From the moment a child learns to hold a pencil, the sermon begins. Work hard, score high, obey the rubric. If you fail, it's not the system, it's you, always you. The system, like God, is perfect and therefore blameless. This is the fairy tale exported to the world, a tiny island, no resources, just brains. Anyone can rise, anyone can win, anyone who doesn't, simply didn't deserve it. That's the brochure. Now let's look at the receipt. Meritocracy in Singapore does not merely reward talent, it locks in early advantages and calls it fairness. By primary school, children are already sorted with surgical precision, not by curiosity, not by creativity, by test performance that suspiciously correlates with household income, parental education, private tuition budgets, and how early someone was taught to fear failure. This is where the quiet violence happens, not loud, not dramatic, polite, efficient, smiling. A child at age 10 learns something profound. Your future has already been priced. They call it streaming, a neutral word, like water flow, as if gravity had nothing to do with it. Once streamed, life narrows, schools diverge, networks split, confidence erodes or inflates. By the time adulthood arrives, society pretends the race just started, even though some runners were handed shoes and others were handed shame. And here's the trick that makes it brilliant and cruel. Everyone is told they earned their place. The elite believe they are morally superior, not just academically successful. The rest internalize failure as personal deficiency. No riots, no protests. Just quiet resignation and motivational posters. Meritocracy becomes the perfect shield. Question inequality, you're bitter. Point out class reproduction, you're lazy. Talk about structural barriers, you're making excuses. In Singapore, class does not scream. It whispers through accents, postal codes, schools, and dinner conversations. You can hear it in English that sounds international. You can hear it in English that apologizes for existing. This is not social mobility. This is social bookkeeping, and the ledger is ruthless. Before we go further, do something rebellious. Subscribe, like, share. Algorithms don't reward truth, they reward noise. If this makes you uncomfortable, good. That means it's working. Chapter 2. Early Childhood. Lifetime Sentence. Singapore insists the race is fair. What it forgets to mention is that the starting line depends on your parents' credit limit. By age 4, the sorting begins. Not officially, of course. Officially, everything is holistic. Unofficially, your future is being negotiated in enrichment centres with glass walls and monthly fees that look suspiciously like rent. Piano, coding, Mandarin drills, math Olympiad, speech and drama, so your child can learn confidence instead of developing it naturally. Childhood becomes a project. Parenting becomes venture capital. If you're rich, your child explores. If you're poor, your child prepares. And Singapore has perfected the art of pretending this is choice. They call it parental involvement. They never call it what it is, outsourcing inequality to families. A child who fails is not failed by the system. They are failed by parents who didn't optimize hard enough. This is crucial. It removes all guilt from institutions. By the time PSLE arrives, it's less an exam and more a verdict. Years of advantage condensed into a few numbers, then broadcast as destiny. The language is always gentle. Pathways. Different strengths. No one is left behind. Except they are. Just quietly. Once you're labelled normal or technical, doors don't slam. They slowly close. Teachers expect less. Society invests less. You begin expecting less of yourself. And here's the masterstroke. Everyone still calls this merit-based. Because nothing says fairness like judging children before their brains finish developing. Singaporean society loves efficiency so much it optimized empathy out of the system. Why waste time on second chances when spreadsheets already told you who matters? The upper tier grows up fluent in confidence. The lower tier grows up fluent in compliance. By adulthood, this creates a workforce that doesn't revolt. It self-manages its disappointment. People don't ask, is this system just? They ask, what did I do wrong? That is not education. That is psychological conditioning. And yes, some climb out. There are always exceptions. They are paraded endlessly to prove the rule is fake. Survivorship stories replace statistics. Hope replaces policy. If this chapter made you uneasy, don't scroll away like a coward. Subscribe, like, share. Discomfort spreads faster when algorithms help. Chapter 3. Class Without a Name. Singapore will swear, hand on heart, that it has no class system. Class is a Western problem. Class is messy. Class causes protests. Singapore is clean. Therefore, class does not exist. This is adorable. Class in Singapore simply learned better manners. There are no aristocrats, only top schools. No peasants, only average performers. No inherited privilege, only strong family culture. The language is sterile, surgical, nothing personal. Yet everyone knows exactly where everyone stands. Ask a Singaporean where someone studied, and you'll get the full biography in 2 syllables. RI, ACS, Hua Chong, conversation over. Education is not just schooling, it's a caste marker, a shorthand for intelligence, worth, and future relevance. They won't say it out loud, but they will think it immediately. Oh, that school. This follows you everywhere. Jobs, dating, social circles, even how seriously your opinions are taken in a meeting. Meritocracy promised equal opportunity. What it delivered was credential worship. Once credentials harden, mobility freezes. Networks replicate themselves. Alumni hire alumni. Elites marry elites. The system becomes incestuous, then congratulates itself for being efficient. And here's the cruel joke. Everyone inside the bubble thinks it's normal. They believe they earned everything individually. They never notice the invisible escalator carrying them upward, while others climb stairs greased with anxiety. Those outside the bubble feel it instantly. The tone shift, the polite condescension, the subtle disbelief that someone like them is in the room. No one calls it discrimination. That would be rude. Instead, they call it fit. You don't fit the culture, you don't fit the role, you don't fit the future. Meritocracy didn't erase class, it made class unquestionable. If you fail, it's not because society is stratified, it's because you personally disappointed the algorithm. People internalize hierarchy so deeply, they defend it even when it crushes them. That's the brilliance of the system. No anger, no solidarity, just silent self-blame. If this sounds familiar, congratulations. You're paying attention. Do not sit there nodding quietly. That helps no one. Subscribe, like, share. Politeness is how bad systems survive. Chapter 4. The Cost of Being Successful. Singapore's meritocracy doesn't just crush the losers, it quietly bleeds the winners too. This is the part never advertised. On paper, success looks immaculate. High scores, prestigious schools, stable careers, condos with tasteful lighting. On the inside, it feels like permanent probation. In a system where worth is measured relentlessly, you are never done proving yourself. There is always someone younger, cheaper, faster, more optimized. The ladder does not end, it narrows. Elite students grow up terrified of falling, not because poverty is looming, but because status loss is unforgivable. Failure is not an experience, it's an identity collapse. So they overwork, they suppress doubt, they turn anxiety into productivity and call it discipline. The reward for winning the meritocratic race is not freedom, it's maintenance. You must keep performing to justify your existence. This creates adults who look composed and feel hollow, people who cannot rest without guilt, people who confuse exhaustion with virtue. and the system applauds this. Burnout is reframed as resilience. Mental collapse is reframed as a personal issue. Structural pressure is never acknowledged because acknowledging it would imply the system is flawed. It isn't. You are. That's the deal. Even relationships become transactional. Who you marry, what they studied, what their parents do. Love is permitted, but only within approved parameters. Children become future projects again. The cycle restarts. Meritocracy demands constant optimization. Human beings were never built for that. So what happens? Quiet antidepressant use, quiet therapy sessions, quiet despair behind closed doors in very expensive homes. No revolution, no screaming, just a society running on caffeine, fear, and comparison. This is not excellence. This is institutionalized anxiety. If this chapter hit too close to home, good. That means you still have a nervous system. Do not reward silence. Subscribe, like, share. Visibility is the only leverage left. Chapter 5. A perfect system that cannot be questioned. Every system has a tell. Singapore's is how aggressively it shuts down doubt. Meritocracy here is not a hypothesis. It is dogma. You are allowed to succeed. You are allowed to fail quietly. You are not allowed to ask whether the rules themselves are warped. The moment you do, something interesting happens. The conversation doesn't turn factual. It turns moral. You are accused of envy, of weakness, of wanting handouts. Critique is reframed as character flaw. That's how you know meritocracy has stopped being a tool and started being an ideology. An ideology that says, if outcomes are unequal, people must be unequal. If suffering exists, someone earned it. If you're drowning, you should have learned to swim earlier. This is incredibly convenient for those at the top. It absolves them of responsibility. It converts privilege into virtue. And it is devastating for everyone else. Because once a society internalizes this logic, solidarity dies. Why help others if they deserve their position? Why fix systems when blaming individuals is cheaper? The end result is a country that looks immaculate and feels brittle. High trust in institutions, low trust between people. Everyone competes. No one rests. No one admits doubt out loud. Meritocracy promised dignity through effort. What it delivered was dignity conditional on performance. That is not freedom. That is a lifelong performance review. And here's the most uncomfortable truth of all. Singapore didn't invent this problem. It perfected it. A world obsessed with rankings, metrics, and optimization looks at Singapore and sees the future. What they should see is the warning label. If you've watched this far, you already know this isn't about hating Singapore. It's about refusing to worship systems that quietly hollow people out.